Hello, and thank you for watching the Virtual Officer Elections and Transition Processes workshop. The objectives of this session include getting helpful tips on how to transition elections to the virtual space, understanding the importance of officer transitions, being able to take away tips and materials for a successful transition, reviewing relevant policies and systems, learning best practices for individual and group goal setting, participate in officer self-reflection and meeting making, and finally, gaining support and insight about the upcoming renewal process. Election process general standards. Elections are held at a chosen time of year. We recommend the end of the spring prior to the new recognition season, which starts annually on May 1st. At least 1 week's notice shall be given for any meeting with an election. The more advance notice, the better. Nominations will be made at a meeting immediately preceding the election by a specified date via protected online form and/or from the floor immediately prior to the election for each office. Each organization can choose what your nomination election processes look like and contain various policies, including that members may nominate themselves. Officers should be elected in a specific order as detailed in your organization bylaws. Officers should be elected by majority vote or however your organization determined and outlined in your organization bylaws, and vote shall be cast by secret ballot or however your organization determined and outlined in your organization bylaws. If your organization's current election process does not fit your organization's need, there is always an opportunity to discuss with the group about updating the process and your bylaws. We encourage you to outreach to an SLL Student Life Advisor if you have more questions about making these changes. We have 3 suggested formats for transitioning your election processes to the virtual space. For asynchronous election processes, you can ask each candidate to record a video of their speech. We suggest a cap of 3 to 5 minutes and have them send it to the person in charge or managing your elections, who will then make those videos available to members only, whether that's via a shared drive, private web page, or aired in a recorded asynchronous Zoom meeting. Group members would then be able to watch the speeches prior to voting. Another option would be to ask each candidate to write a statement explaining their platform and answering any questions about their candidacy. Written statements can be sent to the person in charge of elections, who will then copy and paste or attach each statement to a shared platform for member review. Group members then can read the speeches prior to voting. The last suggested format would be a synchronous meeting. Your organization can host a synchronous meeting where candidates give their speeches and/or answer questions. Group members can vote in the election form after the synchronous meeting. Some important considerations for a synchronous election process. Be mindful of different time zones and virtual course schedules. Academics should always come first for your organization members. Verify that your Zoom application is up to date by following instructions available online and update if needed. Create a Zoom meeting with a unique ID and meeting password that is made available to only general members and active members in good standing. Employ the waiting room feature in Zoom to manage attendee participation. Create an agenda and account for enough time for new nominations, folks to speak their platform, offer Q&A, etc. Be sure to set and communicate time boundaries to be mindful of the amount of time this meeting is held. Record it. Make sure to inform your members in advance that you are looking to record the session to ensure that members are comfortable with this requirement. Then it's available to be distributed to other members unable to join at that time. And lastly, manage screen sharing as appropriate. Election process, casting ballots. Now that we've moved to the virtual space, your organization might have to determine a new process for collecting votes. So you must determine how members will cast their formal votes. Consider what platform might best suit your organization needs. Is it a Google form, a presence form, or the creation of a private organization webpage? If your organization bylaws require that the voting process is anonymous, be sure to review the settings in your platform and ensure that the platform supports this feature. Also, be sure to limit one submission per user so that members don't cast more votes than they should. If your organization has eligibility requirements of voters, be sure not to share the link with any ineligible voting members and consider including agreement language around appropriate behavior of your eligible voters. Things like, I agree not to share the link with any other members or non-members, I agree to only cast one vote, etc. Timelines. Determine how long the form will be live and accessible to your members for voting. And of course, be sure to communicate deadlines clearly and effectively with your organization members. Why are officer transitions so important? It helps with the continuous sustainability of a group, increases the confidence, knowledge, and productivity of officers. It can minimize the turnover confusion. It is natural to have confusion when officer positions experience turnover, but with a good transition, this confusion can be mitigated and avoided. Similarly to avoiding confusion, officer transitions are one of the only times when outgoing officers can share their experience and insight with new officers and members. Officers most likely have gained some experience or insight from their position that may not have been written down or might not make sense to be in a transition binder. For outgoing officers, transitions can be a sense of accomplishment and closure for all of the hard work and dedication they put into their position. This helps end their time as an officer on a positive note and promote connection to the organization even after they have served as an officer and graduated. Lastly, officer transitions maintain the momentum and accomplishment of the organization. Successful transitions promote the continuation of goals and accomplishments by passing on that work and message to the next group of officers who will hopefully continue on the path their predecessors started. Now that we have established why officer transitions are important, let's dive into discussing tips and practices for a successful transition. First, the schedule of how office transitions occurs will ensure that you have a plan of action. This is a sample, recommended timeline for how your transitions can be enacted. The dates will vary based on your organization and its needs. Even if you cannot fit the entire schedule into your organization's transition plan, implementing some aspects will be very beneficial. One of the most successful parts of this plan is hosting an officer transition retreat with all outgoing and incoming officers. The opportunity to transition via a new virtual space is still available. This event can be done during a regularly scheduled business or executive board meeting in the virtual space, and it's a great way to hold all officer roles accountable for providing a transition. In addition, you do not have to be the president or advisor to implement this plan. Take initiative to collaborate with other officers to make this happen. Next, the transition materials you provide to the next officer should be gathered together prior to officer transition meetings. Ideally, these materials are being collected throughout an officer's term. On the screen, you will find a compiled list of possible materials an officer may need to collect and provide to the incoming officer. We encourage you to collect these in a centralized location, whether that be a binder, Google Drive, Dropbox, a thumb drive, or another form of your choice. Bonus points for creating a general email address, such as sll@stsu.edu for each officer position, so that the transition materials can be collected there and easily transition to the next person to use that email address. Looking at this list, some questions for you and fellow officers to consider. What are some documents that you think you will need to collect for your specific position? What documents or information specific to your organization will you need? What can you start doing now to prepare these materials? In addition to collecting transition materials specific to each officer position, we would like to take this opportunity to remind you that including transition information about the student organization recognition process will set your group up for success each year. The general checklist for recognition can be found on the screen and on our website, sll.stsu.edu. We recommend starting this process as early as possible. Organizations can start their RSO application for the upcoming academic year after May 1st. Organizations who complete the recognition process successfully will have the following benefits: use of SDSU's name and logo, access to scheduling, advertising, and publicizing activities and events, meeting on campus, reserving AS and university facilities and equipment, applying for and receiving workspace, a mailbox, applying for and receiving AS funding, subject to availability and eligibility, applying for and receiving AS College Council funding, participating in SLL events and activities, engaging in fundraising activities, certifying campus recognition for national or statewide affiliated organizations, and receiving tax-exempt charitable donations through provisions administered by the SDSU Campanile Foundation. For the 2020-2021 renewal process, be sure to submit any event application system requests for events you are planning for the fall now if you're already currently recognized, at least by April 30th. If your organization is currently recognized, note that your recognition expires on May 1st. However, you will still have access to your on-campus banking until June 30th. Specific to the 2020-2021 recognition renewal season, it launches on May 1st. Your RSO application for that upcoming year goes live on May 1st. AS Banking will start accepting new bank applications. Officer trainings are one and done, meaning if you have previously completed the RSO leadership training or the student organization conflict identity and awareness training, you do not have to recomplete the training. But if you have not done that training or either training yet, You must register and complete it in order to satisfy the requirement. Advisor trainings are done annually and offer a 1-period eligibility. There's 3-period eligibility for in-person advisor trainings. Lastly, officer transitions are most successful when they are paired with goal setting for the organization, the officer team, and each individual. We encourage you to make your goals SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. If you are unsure what we mean with this acronym, check out our workshop on organizational goal setting. When you are working with a group to create shared goals, whether that be with your entire organization or just your officer team, it is important to ensure that you create guidelines upfront for the purpose of the conversations and expectations for everyone involved. One example of an expectation may be that if someone in the group has an idea to share, they should raise their hand in your Zoom meeting prior to speaking. This may help ensure everyone in the group is heard. If they are the individual leading the meeting, it is important that you give everyone the chance to speak, while also validating their ideas and showing appreciation for their participation. This will promote camaraderie among the group, as well as buy-in from members to participate in achieving these goals. Oftentimes, these group conversations can be led to a variety of tangents and more topics to explore. We recommend that whoever is leading the meeting strives to keep the group on task to set group goals and to keep the conversation moving in a positive, constructive direction. Group goal setting can provide your organization with many benefits, including gaining buy-in from fellow organization members to accomplish goals, creating expectations to which you can hold members accountable, building trust and respect between officers, general members, and advisors, and finally, fostering inclusion and community. In addition to group goal setting, we encourage each outgoing officer and new officer to review the questions on the screen and to share their responses with one another. The outgoing officer's reflection of their goals and accomplishments will hopefully contribute to the goals of the new officer to promote the continuation of progress or projects your organization is pursuing. These questions are also a great way to provide outgoing officers a space to give their ideas, feedback, and experience to new officers. Some ideas for outgoing officers and new officers. You would definitely have an opportunity to personally reflect on your goals and to share your knowledge. And ways that you can do this is by writing an email to the next officer if you're an outgoing officer. As an incoming officer, you can even write yourself a letter or email to your future self. Lastly, it is beneficial to provide outgoing officers a space to reflect on their time as an officer. Oftentimes, students in leadership positions do not take time to reflect on what they learned in the position or how this role impacted their own personal development. Taking time to reflect will help officers make meaning of their experience, which can then assist them with articulating their leadership roles and skills gained to a resume or in an interview. Some officers may even find that they have a passion for serving in a leadership role, which could impact their future goals. A few questions you may want to ask outgoing officers to promote this reflection include, what did you learn about yourself from this position? What did you enjoy most in this officer role? What skills did you learn from this position? And what are your own personal goals in this organization for the coming year? For any questions, please email sll@sdsu.edu to be connected to a student life advisor who'd be happy to support you with any of the content reviewed in this presentation or answer any other follow-up questions that this presentation might have inspired. Thank you for following along and watching our virtual RSO elections and officer transition workshop. We hope you have a great day.